Thanks, Alan. It's certainly a pleasure to be here, and just so excited about how the events come together. And it's great to see so many people turn up, but it's really good to see the conversations are already starting, and how engaged you can actually hear everybody right from the start. And it's just so fantastic to see that and have the opportunity to do that as well. And it's while this is a great opportunity for us to demonstrate and showcase so many of the things that we do at MLA, it's also a really good reminder for us as well about why we do the things that we do and how they then connect with the industry and producers and provide benefit, and how we can create and capture more value for the industry. And it's worth having a quick reminder for ourselves about why we do what we do, and specifically what it is. And largely our responsibility is around how do we actually work with the Australian government and the wider red meat sector. How do we collaborate and invest in initiatives that contribute to producer profitability, sustainability and global competitiveness? So how do we invest in things that make the industry better? How do we invest in things that support producers and levy payers to be better and to be more profitable and productive and sustainable, and provide that sort of intergenerational security across our sector? We have these visions and purpose statements, and it really is a good reminder for us back on the why we do what we do. And we've gone through and reviewed these over the years. In the last couple of years, we've had a look at our vision and purpose again, and we've very consciously wanted to include words like prosperity, enduring prosperity. How do we invest in things? How do we partner with the industry? How do we collaborate with others to create enduring prosperity for the industry, for the Australian red meat and livestock sector? How do we invest in things that deliver solutions that allow our operations, our businesses, our people to be better? And doing that by delivering world-leading outcomes. And we know that we're so reliant as an industry on exports, so being globally competitive is incredibly important. And we also know that across the world, one of the most important, if not the most important issue that we've ever seen is this concern around climate and sustainability and the environment. And our industry has such a fantastic story to tell. The things we do to actually look after and manage and improve the environment are really unparalleled across any other industry. And the way that we tell our story and the way that we demonstrate that to the broader community and consumers is incredibly important. But we've also got to be profitable and productive as we do this. And I think what we've discovered in the last few years as an industry, and certainly as MLA, is that historically I think we've seen being profitable and productive and having sustainability, or the way we engage with the environment, those things we've seen as being competitive, that we had to trade one off against the other. And one of the most important things that we've been doing, particularly around things like the CN30 program, is looking at what are the things that we can invest in that allow us to be profitable and productive, provide us with intergenerational sustainability, but then also allow us to leave the environment in better shape. And we've got such good examples of how we can do that, how we can actually be a profitable industry, but also how we better look after the environment. And so much of that is just demonstrating the things that we already do. It would really be remiss to not talk about the challenging operating conditions. I think if we didn't talk about those on a day like today, it'd really look like we weren't paying attention. And we obviously spend a lot of time looking at market information and marketing conditions, and so much of what you see reported around the market conditions comes from our information. But I think what we've seen in the last year particularly is the sentiment of the industry, and so much of the behaviour in the market has got out of step with the physical conditions. I think there's a whole range of reasons for that, but it's created a really difficult and challenging environment for us. And this discussion around El Nino has been one that's been really, I think, really destructive around the sentiment in the industry. And I think some of it's come from having 3 such fantastic years. It was hard to believe that anything apart from a terrible result in the next year was going to be possible. There was so much discussion about El Nino must be coming next, and it wasn't until September when we actually got there. But this is the type of focus in the discussion that we so often see. And all this picture of Australia is a representation of the probability of having higher than median temperatures. So what's the probability of having higher than average temperatures? That's actually all it says. It says probably everybody's going to be a bit hotter than what they would be on average. That's actually all it says. What it looks like is this great big picture of the country on fire and it's going to be a disaster, and that's so often what gets extrapolated out from it. But we've got to really keep these things in perspective. Having the knowledge about what happens, what's potentially happening with our environment are incredibly valuable tools, but they nearly get weaponised in the way that we actually think about the industry and the sentiment. And it's a terrible thing that we've seen impact on so much of the market sentiment this year. This one here is exactly the same day, exactly the same data. This is actually talking about the average of exceeding median rainfall. So this one here is the probability of higher temperatures. This one here is actually the probability of getting higher than average rainfall. So give or take 40%, 50% of the country, everything that's white is 50% chance of getting higher than average rainfall. Now, if you listen to some of the commentary or the perspective about El Nino, it's going to be hotter and drier and it's never raining again. And it's really not the case, right? It's very valuable information about how we might manage our biomass and how we might manage the resources we have in front of us, but we've got to try and keep it in perspective, because this one here is actually the probability, the 75% probability of the amount of rain we're going to get. So too often we focus on this one and we forget that this one here follows it on exactly the same day to the same day, and this is actually probably what we're looking for, or we're looking forward to. So keeping perspective around having so much more information is important for us. So we've had challenging market conditions, we really have, and we've got to take that information into consideration. We've got to be aware of it, we've got to use it as part of our management tools, but we've got to try and keep it in perspective as well, because it's not the only thing that's actually driving what's happening across our sector. So when we look at what's happening then actually in the market, and these numbers here, they're current, I think they're yesterday's numbers, so the percentage year-on-year changes here, which are all down massively, so let's call them on average 50% down. They've actually come up quite a bit in the last 30 days, but they're still down about 50%. I'd hazard a guess that most people aren't aware that a chunk of these indicators have risen 20, 25 or 30% in the last 30 days, because we don't tend to celebrate the successes and the progress as well as we actually celebrate the negatives. As we came off the highest prices that we've ever seen, we had a whole bunch of conversation and focus on how quickly the prices were dropping rather than what were the contributing factors and what can we actually do about it. We're now actually getting to the other end of that cycle in this period, and what are the things that are driving that? So what's driven so much of our market positioning has been the herd and the flock. So more cattle and sheep than we've had for a very long time, and that volume has just had trouble getting through the supply chain. So we add that to some negative sentiment about the market, we add it to some challenges around availability of labour and processing, and we end up with this really negative sentiment around the market and this significant response to that. But there's huge positives behind it as well. So our slaughter rate has actually risen really quickly, and we're largely dealing with that big lump of livestock that's come through the system. We're seeing some shift in the weather pattern. The weather pattern hasn't actually got as negative as we thought it might have as quickly. We're still in reasonably good shape as far as our drought position is concerned. There were very, very few areas actually drought declared. I think that's still the case. So we've actually still got feed, we've still got some prospect of rain, we've still got significant demand for our product in those markets. Domestic retail prices have eased, and we've seen a response in the volume that's now going through retail, and the market information team will be able to talk more about that. We've also seen a massive increase in our export volumes as well. So we've got these other drivers that are very significant in how they actually line up with our broader market conditions. So absolutely we've got some challenges, but there's a whole bunch of positives that go with it as well. How we deal with and manage those challenges and how we respond to the opportunities is such an important part of how we need to think about our supply chain and the market. And what we have to remember is, as an industry, we are incredibly resilient. There's been no issue that we've been faced with previously that we haven't actually worked out not only how to solve, but quite often come out the other side in much better shape. And how we lean into that experience and know that we have the ability to get through these things in a very positive and productive way is incredibly important. So while there's challenging market conditions, there's actually still plenty of good news. So even in the previous year when we've had, and it's crossed over 22 and 23, the additional farm gate returns as a result of the MSA program was $259 million. Differential between MSA graded cattle and non-MSA cattle, value captured by producers, $259 million. Industry program that provide us with benefit even in a challenging environment. There's really good supply chain examples, and you'll hear some of them later this morning, about building these relationships that allow us to connect ourselves to these higher quality markets with high value consumers and capture value from that. We look at our producer adoption report, so the training programs, the extension programs, the adoption of the types of things that we've been investing in around increasing on-farm productivity, producing $50 or $60 million worth of value per year, and looking at the things out of those programs that are actually going to build sustainable longer term benefits, the practice change that has incremental and cumulative benefit, whether that be things like genetics or whether it be practice change in the way that we manage our livestock or our pastures or the soils. Things like the summer lamb ad, which is one of the easiest things for us to point to when people say, what does MLA do? So, well, the summer lamb ad is one of the things we do. 5 million views of the lamb ad this year, the most that we've actually had through that online sort of YouTube promotion of the ad. So high levels of awareness of our product and what we do with it. One of the other things we've been really focused on is how do we connect better with the consumers and the community. So the Australian Good Meat program, so over 1.8 million social media users over the last financial year, and the Good Meat program has a whole range of resources to it. So it's the social media presence is a very important part of that, and how we tell the good story, and particularly using producers to do that. But there's a bunch of resources that sit behind that, which everybody can use and access as well. Use the resources absolutely as they are, or copy them to learn the things that actually work. But it's a fantastic resource that's available to everybody to use and get our story out and spread our message in a much more positive way. And we've seen some shift in the market, and that that rain chart there in the top left, compare it to the red temperature chart, which is probably more popular when we're wanting to tell a negative story. That's actually the next 8-day rain forecast that was, I think, from Monday or Tuesday this week. So nearly for every significant negative that we have facing us, that we have to manage and deal with, that's right in front of us, there's quite often a positive that we can turn to and lean into as well. So a couple of things to highlight that you might want to have a look at today, and the sorts of things we're investing in, over and above those individual, very specific research projects. How do we actually make things easier and better? How do we help you be more efficient? How do we invest in things that are going to help support the supply chain and our livestock businesses? The ENVD app, so the Electronic National Vendor Deck app, is a key one of those. So the challenge was, how do we actually take our traceability biosecurity system based around the vendor deck, LPA and the NLIS system, and improve the accuracy of it, improve the ease of operation, improve the way that information can flow through the supply chain, and digitising that information was one of the key things. One of the flags that came up was around connectivity and how difficult it was to use particularly internet-based technology with the level of connectivity. So one of the key problems we had to solve was the offline functionality of that app, and that's one of the things the team worked on really hard over the last 12 or 18 months, as that has then been delivered in the last 12 months and is getting used on a more and more common basis. The Australian Feed-Based Monitor, which is building off a commercial service which looks at satellite-based biomass measurement. It's a simpler, more entry-level version of that more detailed commercial product, but it's one that's readily accessible for all MLA members through the My MLA site. So making technology more readily available, trying to rise the tide in the way that we access and use information that can help us make better decisions. The same reason why we invested in a carbon calculator, so we can get a better understanding of what the footprint might be like on our farm, so we can be better informed when people are talking about the interaction that we have with the environment and with the potential impact on the climate. 2 new online indicators, and the teams that are here today at the various stands are all prepared and excited to talk to you about the sorts of things that we're investing in that help you get better information and be better informed and make better decisions. One of the other big things we're investing in over the next few years is this rebuild of the NLIS database, and it's in conjunction with a grant from the federal government, and it's responding to the importance of the NLIS database to our traceability and biosecurity systems right across our whole livestock production industry. And the database is decades old, and while it's been fantastic and served us really well and still does, setting up for the future is an incredibly important part of what we have to do, and building this new database is a key focus for the next couple of years for ISC. Just right up the back here, as you come down the stairs from the front, there's a stand that's the team wanted to talk to you about My MLA, which was launched yesterday. And what we've done with this is getting all the tools in the one spot. So you sign in the one place, you have the single sign in, it gives you access to all of the tools and information through one single online portal. So LPA, NLIS, MSA, MIDE feedback, which is the combination of the MSA feedback and the old LDL system, so getting all of that information in one spot, being able to access the ENVD information from sheep genetics, so providing a central point so it's much easier and more efficient and more streamlined for you to access that information. You can also then customise that, latest news and weather from your region and what's important to you, but it's also membership updates and a few other things as well. So make sure you take the time to talk to the team about that. So days like today are really important for us to engage and interact with you, and the team is really excited about being able to do that and talk to you about the types of things that we invest in to demonstrate our commitment to that bit about being profitable and productive and having intergenerational sustainability and leaving things in better shape, but also how do we contribute to this enduring prosperity for the industry. And we're certainly very excited to be able to do that and engage with you today. So thank you very much for making the effort to come along, and we're really looking forward to the balance of the day.